Welcome to Whispers of Resilience, our MS Stories podcast, where Justine Martin, the Queen of Resilience, sits down with each incredible author featured in this highly anticipated anthology. In this captivating series, we delve into the depths of each author's chapter, exploring the hows and whys behind their desire to share their experiences with multiple sclerosis. Prepare to be inspired as these courageous souls recount their triumphs, their challenges, and the resilience that fuels their spirits.
Welcome back, listeners, to Whispers of Resilience, our MS Stories. We're getting nearly to the end of all these recordings, and today I've got with me Penelope, who likes to be called Penel. So how are you?
I'm good, thank you, Justine. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really, really good. Now, why did you want to be a part of this project?
I was keen to get my story out from my perspective. I didn't want anybody else's perspective on my story. I wanted my story. So If I wrote it myself, it was coming from me. The other reason is that maybe I've been diagnosed now for 22 years and maybe 22 years. And maybe my story, like the other stories, can help somebody who's newly diagnosed to deal with it all. Because it can be quite overwhelming. I'd like people to realise that it's not the end of your life. It's simply a change in your life.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's about adapting and modifying to what you're capable of doing. And unfortunately for a lot of us, that can change daily.
Yes. It can, but then it's just like taking one breath at a time or taking one step at a time, and you deal with it as best you can at that point.
So your chapter is so empowering.
Thank you.
Beautifully written. What did you get out of the whole writing process?
I found that sometimes it was confronting, actually putting the story down on paper.
Mm-hmm.
I realised that I do mention the grieving process, and prior to writing my story, I didn't realise how much the grieving process meant to me, having been through it a few times.
Yep.
That, in a way, helps me understand that things will eventually be all right. They might not be the way that you've expected them, but it just helps accept. It's a bit like people say to me, "Oh, you're amazing the way you fight your MS." And I say, I don't fight it. I accept I've got it and I work with it.
I like that statement. It's all about acceptance. Yes. I don't have the energy to fight it.
No.
I don't.
And acceptance isn't giving in. You're still doing things that you would like to do, but it's not giving into it. It's just acknowledging that you've got it, trying to stay safe, do what you would like to do, what you hope to do, and go from there.
Yeah, totally agree with you. Was there something that you wanted to write in your chapter, but you didn't put it in? You ran out of space, or you forgot afterwards when you signed on the dotted line?
It's hindsight. You're referring to hindsight.
Oh, why did I know that 20 podcasts ago?
One of the things I would have liked to have mentioned in my chapter is a little bit about Toastmasters. Now, I know there's a lot of people who perhaps have had not very good experiences. I have always had a good experience.
Yep.
I'm currently a member of an online club, which is Country Communicators, if anybody out there is interested in joining. But I like its structure, the Toastmaster structure, and there's a really great camaraderie with the people in this online group. And I found the way Toastmasters has helped just to boost my self-confidence and my self-esteem and giving me different responsibilities.
Yeah.
And I've really enjoyed it. I like the formal structure. Some people don't like that. But in saying that, it's also a very friendly group. At our next meeting, somebody's talking about how our theme will be wearing pajamas. We're all supposed to wear pajamas to the online meeting. So that could be interesting.
Especially if people sleep naked. What if they sleep naked?
Well, there's a couple of the boys boys saying, or when I say boys, that isn't a very kind term, and they're telling us they don't own pajamas. So it could be an interesting meeting.
Well, if it's on Zoom, you're only going to see from the waist up anyway. So if it's guys, it won't matter.
Exactly. Some of those chests might be worried.
So Toastmasters was one thing that you would have mentioned.
Yes.
Yep. Anything else?
No, I think I'm a bit prone from jumping from thing to thing. Something else that I have got a lot of pleasure from was getting involved with different groups. And at one stage, I was going off to the local ukulele meeting. So we'd go, and again, I really enjoyed that. And I think that because there was ukuleles. If you don't like ukuleles, fine. But there's a lot of community singing as well, and they were so welcoming. I turned up not knowing a single person. But yeah, little things like that, stepping outside your box and just trying something a little bit different. It may click with you, it may not click with you. It's just worthwhile having a go, and you'll feel better for having had a go.
Yeah, most definitely. So let's talk about getting outside your comfort zone and writing this chapter. You attended the majority of the writing groups that we had going over that 6 weeks.
Yes.
I'm going to talk about your experience a bit with the writing groups.
I enjoyed the writing group from the point of view of hearing a little bit about other people's stories. I'm very keen to read some of the other stories, and even though I actually knew a couple of people, because they're from my area in North Queensland, who were in the writing group, I'm still really interested to read their stories and just find out a little bit more about the person, what they've been through. I'm keen to do that. It was also quite, it was almost like a support group in a way, and that a lot of people could relate to how other people were feeling, and just having a chat about those sorts of things I found very, very helpful to me.
Yeah. And what about the actual writing of your chapter?
The writing of my chapter, I have done a little bit, a weeny bit of writing for some study and some formal things. I have occasionally written things for various newsletters, and so I just had to keep remembering that I had to have an introduction, a middle, and an end, and I had so many words I had to squeeze it all into.
Yeah.
As well, which was very good in the rereading, and you take out a lot of extra words like just and really and so, and just a lot of fillers, gap fillers.
Yeah.
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 So I did enjoy it. I had a great sense of satisfaction once I finished it.
That is that when you hit that send button.
Yes.
Oh, does it feel good?
It felt so good to send it off. And
what about when you got your edit back?
The edit back, there was a couple of places where I feel the editor and I weren't quite on the same plane or same page. It's great for an editor, isn't it? Everybody's saying that. But once I explained a bit more what I meant to you, Justine, and then you went back to the editor and sort of said, well, this is what she means, it all just fell into place.
Yeah.
But there was a couple of little changes that I expected. There's a couple of little changes that I didn't really expect. But it all came out well in the end. I was very happy with how it came out.
Oh, it's beautifully written.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So we built our own little community with the writing group.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely did.
Would you recommend it to anyone else?
Oh, yes, definitely. If somebody's comfortable enough or they've come far enough on their journey that they'd like to give it a go, I can highly recommend it. I know there's a lot of people with MS out there who need, for various reasons, whether it be a work, employment situation, they feel they need to keep it fairly quiet that they have MS. And I understand that. I think I've reached a point in my journey that I really don't care who knows. That Yes,
Well, it's a bit hard to hide it now, isn't it?
it is. Yes, being in a wheelchair, it is a little bit hard to hide it. But yeah, I found being in the wheelchair has definitely empowered me. It hasn't made me feel more disabled as I thought it would, in that I'm able to get things done at a reasonable amount of time. I was quite shocked when I actually overtook somebody in the shopping centre the other day. I went past them. They weren't even watching their phone.
I've done that in my chair, and it's like, oh my God, I'm actually faster than someone.
Yes. And it was just one of those eeny-weeny victories that probably wouldn't mean much to anybody else, but it meant a lot to me. And also when my support worker, the first time I went into an electric scooter thing, and my support worker said, "Oh, I'm going to make up my steps today now," keeping up with you. But I enjoyed that. It's just given me so much more independence. I have registered for the Running Festival 2.5 event, which I have done in the past, and I mentioned that in my chapter. And I have gone ahead and already in my training, with the wheelie walker, I did the route in about 2 hours. In the wheelchair, but just around my streets, I'm doing the half the time. In an hour, I'm doing over 2.5 k's, and it's just given me a whole heap more freedom.
Independence. Although we think that they take our independence away, they actually give us independence back.
Yes, they do. And I haven't had any silly comments. I've always had people who are willing to help if they think I look like I'm struggling to perhaps get into a disability loo. I can usually manage to do it eventually, but if somebody sees me, it usually involves elbows and knees and the hands and grabbing rails and doors and wheels. And I suspect they think, "Oh dear, what is she doing?" And they'll come and just open the door for me, which I do appreciate. And I think I've developed a whole new appreciation for automatic doors.
Yes.
Yes. I already really liked automatic doors with the wheelie walker, but with the wheelchair, they're just wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
Yeah. So around the house, are you in your chair or are you still using your wheelie walker?
No, I have a couple of, I have one old wheelie walker at the front door. I have one old wheelie walker at the back door. I found another old wheelie walker in the garage the other day, which I was quite relieved. And inside I have a little wheelie walker. I don't know if we can see it, but it just helps me get around a little bit more easily and safely. I don't feel I need the wheelchair in the house just yet.
Yep.
But I realise that it's could happen. I was lucky in a way that a few years ago I broke a bone in my foot and had to be non-weight bearing and had to have a wheelchair. And the build up to that was, it took me half an hour to get into to meet my friends, and my hands were covered in blisters using a hopper thing. And then they just sort of took control and said, no, you've got to go. This is ridiculous. And they took me off to the wheelchair place, and I'm in tears. I'm saying, I don't need a wheelchair. And they're saying, this isn't for your MS. This is for your foot. Like, oh, okay. And I found I was actually able to use it around the house quite well. So I think at the time I didn't think it was a good thing, but now I think it is a good thing because it gave me a little bit more freedom and a few more skills that just moving around, a bit more confidence when I've gone into the wheelchair this time.
Yeah.
So eventually I get around the house with my little indoor trolley, with a bit of furniture walking, and the animals have learnt the word move.
What animals have you got? I know what you've got, but what do you got?
I have a little cat called Shelley. She is what's commonly known as a naughty tortie. So she's tortoiseshell, that's why she's called Shelley. Due to unforeseen circumstances, I'll use the word acquired. Some people might use the word rehoned. A dog. She weighs a little over 30 kilos.
Oh my God!
She's She turned 12 months in February, and she's very multicultural. She has Australian cattle dog, she has American Staffy, she has Chinese Shar-Pei, she has Italian Mastiff, and just to top it all off, French Bulldog. So she's quite...
So my mum would have called her a Heinz 57.
Oh, yes, and that's what quite a few people refer to her, but people sort of say, oh, wow, what breed is she? And I usually just try and keep it short and just say, oh, she's a Mastiff cross Shar-Pei. That's sort of the easy thing. But she's provided me with a lot more security within the house, and I've always had animals. And my other little dog passed away in March, which was quite devastating. But having her and having a bed dog, which wasn't something I planned, she just provides me more security in my home and my yard, and it's extra bit of motivation to get out and take her for a walk. She walks, I wheel. But just that little bit extra motivation to do that. And I feel the benefits far outweigh the disadvantages, like when she ate a heap of my grass.
My little dog would be lunch for yours.
Well, she's actually quite gentle. She plays with the cat. She's quite tolerant of the little next door neighbour's dog that comes over and tries to do some doggy dancing on her.
Did you write about them in your chapter? Because I can't remember
I haven't.
Did you write something about chooks?
Oh, yes. How could I forget my chooks? I currently have 4 chooks. The 2 of them passed away from old age recently. And to go out and collect their eggs, I have to use one of my wheelie walkers. And I learned very early on when I collect the eggs that I need to take a container out rather than putting the eggs in my pocket. Yes, I learned that the hard way.
Yes, I'm sure. Because I've read all of your chapters, and I'm like, I'm sure it was Penel's is the one that has got the chooks in it.
Yes, and the chooks are rounding them up with the wheelie walker is always very interesting. But we've now got into a routine or a habit. And they usually know that if they go in the general direction with me following them with the wheelie walker, they will get dinner. So it's yes, so
they're well trained. They're well trained.
Well trained chooks, yes. So, yes. So that and I love the chooks. Their social interactions with each other is quite like whoever's going to be the queen of the flock today, and whoever's going to be the jester of the flock. It's quite entertaining, and they are another excuse for getting outside the house and to move around. I don't think it's a good idea to do it in bare feet. There's nothing like chook poo oozing between your toes.
No, you can have that.
Yes, but they're another good reason to get out to feed them, to make sure their water's okay, to collect their eggs, all of those sorts of things. It's just another reason, or another, don't really need a reason, but to keep moving. I think that's really, really important.
Yeah. Why do you think it's important?
There's a thing called neuroplasticity, which if anybody's really interested in finding out a bit more about that, they can look into it a bit more. But basically it's to keep muscles moving. So if the message from the brain to the muscle isn't getting through very well, those muscles can start to become they can add to your problem. They become a bit floppy or useless. Whereas sending them a message, just to keep them moving, it will hopefully stop the muscles from weakening, and you've got more problems.
And I find when I'm moving, then the spasticity doesn't seem to happen as much in my body.
Yes. Well, that's something I've noticed, is that when I haven't been doing any sort of formal exercise, I'll get almost a shooting, stabbing pain down my right side when I go to bed, when I relax. But when I'm doing more movement, it doesn't happen as often. So, and yes, one of the things I do is yoga, and that's just been so good for my head. Just dealing with everything associated with MS, and keeping my body moving and helping with balance. I do some interesting versions of some of the postures, but I've had the same teacher for the last 10 or 12 years, and she trusts me. If I'm going to modify a posture, she trusts me the way I do it. I trust her that she won't sort of make life difficult, and it works very well. So it's just it's the moving. You feel better. You get up and move. You just feel better.
So, have you told anyone that you've written this chapter?
Initially, I didn't. I didn't tell many people. But I'm not sure why. I wasn't embarrassed. I just think perhaps I didn't want to blow my own trumpet, but maybe that's being a bit egotistical. I don't know. But I have, once I got stuck into the chapter, and there's so many people who have supported me over the years, and I've mentioned some of them in my chapter, and I thought, no, I want them to know about it, and with the view that hopefully they will read it and they'll know just a little bit more about just how appreciative I have been of their support. I've also told my support workers, my service providers, and they're also interested in reading it. So I thought, well, surely there's more people out there with MS who would be interested in just hearing a few more stories. And some of the people who I've worked with or who work with me, just gives them a little bit more of an idea of what's going on in my head, I suppose.
Yeah. How proud are you of this?
I don't know yet. Let me know once it's released. For me right now, I am feeling quite proud, quite pleased that I've done it, and it's got me motivated to do a little bit more writing, a bit more formal writing.
Let's talk about that.
Right. What would you like to know?
So when you started the writing process with Morpheus Publishing and this book project, you did mention that you thought that you might like to write a memoir or continue writing something.
Yes.
And you have done that. You've joined the next stage in Morpheus and have started composing what? I know what it is, but let you talk about it.
Okay. I have started writing a story. Well, it's a true story. I'm quite interested in what is referred to as descriptive non-fiction. And so I've finished that story. It's just in the process of being tidied up. And it's about, should I say what it's about?
You can say what it's about.
Okay. It's about, I don't know if people were or have heard of a lady called Anne-Marie Smith. She was a lady, she had cerebral palsy. She was in Adelaide, and something quite horrific happened to her with regards her carer, her support worker. Her support worker is now in jail, and Anne-Marie has since passed away.
And that rocked the disability world.
Oh, yes.
And everyone else who was mortified on the state of what that woman had lived in and that. So from her story, what are you doing?
I've written her story just to try and make people a little bit more aware how dependent you do. You don't want to become dependent, but you do. One of the things that happened in her story is her neighbours lost contact with her. So they had no idea how the inside of her home had turned into a house of horrors. She only had contact with one person, and that was her support worker. It's the lady who's now in jail. If people just keep an eye out or an ear out on each other, that can just make a huge difference. And if she'd had that in her life, hopefully
be alive.
What happened wouldn't have happened. So
that support worker was taking her money too, wasn't she?
Well, allegedly.
Yeah.
I didn't put too much emphasis on the surrounding situation. I tried to put a bit more on the physical side of things because I can relate to that a bit more. But her parents were quite comfortably well off. When they passed away, they left her an inheritance and left her quite comfortably set up. in the house and organised for Disability South Australia to look after her. Then with the introduction of the NDIS, she was handed out, it's not quite the word, she was contracted to another organisation, one called Integrity South Australia, or Integrity Care. And she was funded through the NDIS to have a carer in every day for 6 hours. And slowly but surely that lady's independence, dignity just disappeared because the carer didn't care. And the carer, I think the carer had her own problems, but she didn't go and say to anybody, I'm having problems doing this, looking after this lady. So ultimately it comes back to people taking responsibility for their actions. But in amongst Anne-Marie's story, her car, she didn't drive, but she did own a car. And her car has somehow managed to rack up over $2,000 worth of traffic fines. And they were all paid out of Anne-Marie's account. There was something like $35,000 worth of handcrafted jewellery that had been, I assume it was organised by her parents, her family. That hasn't been found. That's still missing.
So sad. So you're writing a story about all of this?
Yes. I'd like to write some short stories. I'm not one, I can't ever see myself writing a novel. There was so much research that went into this short story. Whether or not you can sort of see how much research, but a lot of research did go into it. And I'm keen to write other things, but in a little bit more light-hearted manner. And I'm tossing around the idea of calling the book something like Observations from a Wheelchair. And Anne-Marie's story fits in to there because she was in a wheelchair, or she was actually beyond a wheelchair. She spent her last 12 months in a cane chair, but it still relates back to the wheelchair. And I've just noticed a few interesting things. I met a little boy. He was probably lucky if he was 1 year old. He was at the big chubby cheeks and just the 2 front teeth. And I happened to be going past him. He was in his stroller and he's just sitting there looking at me. And he was just so cute. And I said, oh, hello. And his mum sort of came over and was saying, hello. And she was telling me a little bit about him. And he's just sitting there staring at the chair. And I realised he hasn't seen a wheelchair. It was something completely different. And either that or he wasn't used to seeing an adult in a pushchair. It was just something so different for him. And that's just one little observation. And I find in the wheelchair, I'm a direct eye contact level with a lot of children. And
we were talking about this last week because obviously we've been working together on our one-on-ones. And my observation was that people need to wear better underwear.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
You remember?
Yes. I fortunately haven't had that experience, but I'm very, as in from the observing point of view and from the wearing point of view. I usually wear pants or jeans or something along those lines. So
yeah, you're not going to wear a short skirt when you're pushing your chair. But just think about this, everyone out there listening, that if you've got really bad, ill-fitting underwear on, people in wheelchairs, that is the first thing that they notice. It's the first thing. If it's all hanging out down there, it's not good.
and this is, again, the eye level thing. And I'd just like to mention, if there's any young, trendy girls out there, please wear shorts that aren't so super short you can actually see your bottom.
Because at our view, when you're in a chair, that's all you can see.
That's all you can see.
Some cheeks. Some cheeks.
But on the other hand, I do like people watching, and I have seen, being on eye level with a lot of bottoms, I've seen some really interesting bottoms now, taking a lot more interest in bottoms. And some of the shapes of some bottoms are quite interesting.
Not walking in front of you ever again. Ever. I'll offer to push your chair instead, so I'm well behind.
It's just one of those things that you can't. It's very difficult to look away.
Yeah, so, I know. It's at eye level. I get it. I totally get it. So if you are listening out there and you want to purchase Whispers in Resilience, then hop on to resiliencemindset.com.au, or it is available on all major platforms like Amazon and Barnes & Noble and on the internet generally. So it'll be available from the 14th of September onwards, and 25% of the profit from the sale of the books is going directly back to MS Research, and I had another meeting with them today, which is excellent. And then the other 75% is going to Profit with Purpose, so helping people like yourself, Penel, that you will receive a scholarship when your book is finished for Morpheus to help publish that book, which is fantastic. So is there anything you'd like to leave the group with, the listeners with?
To say it's been a really good experience making my story public and actually putting it down on paper. I think even if I hadn't have been involved from the publishing side, just actually putting the words on paper to explain a little bit of what I've been through, it's been a great experience. It's done wonders for my self-confidence and my self-esteem, and it's something I highly recommend a lot of other people do, just to put your thoughts on paper.
Yeah. I think a lot of people had the same outcome as you as well, Penel. So thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, Justine, and thank you for providing this opportunity for us to put our stories down on paper. It's been well appreciated. Thank you.
You're welcome. And if you're out there and you'd like to be part of one of these anthology books, please get in contact with me at hello@justinemartin.com.au. And we are doing another one, which is starting in around about mid-January next year with the writing group with that. So you'd recommend someone coming in and doing it?
I would recommend people.
Yeah.
People definitely do it. I do have a couple of people in mind, but I know they're always running around like.
We'll have a chat. Yes. We'll have a chat after this, and you can let them know.
Yeah.
So anyway, listeners, thanks for tuning in today, and until next time, you all stay healthy.
Are you ready to be inspired? Get ready for the book that will touch your heart and ignite your spirit. Whispers of Resilience, Personal Stories of Living with MS is now available for purchase. Have you ever wanted to peek into the lives of individuals who have triumphed over adversity? Look no further. This highly anticipated anthology brings together a group of exceptionally talented authors, all living with multiple sclerosis, who share their personal journeys with unyielding honesty and vulnerability. At www.resiliencemindset.com.au, you can now secure your copy of this remarkable book that captures the essence of resilience, hope, and the power of the human spirit. Dive into the stories that will captivate your imagination and open your heart to the triumphs and challenges faced by these courageous individuals. With each turn of the page, you'll witness the unbreakable spirit of these authors, as they navigate the unpredictable terrain of MS. Their words will inspire you, uplift you, and remind you of the incredible strength that lies within. Visit www.resiliencemindset.com.au now and embark on a transformative journey through the pages of Whispers of Resilience. Get your copy today.